All right, guys, welcome back to the WMDTech Bombcast. This is episode 2. I'm here with our CEO, Robert Brown. And last week, we talked kind of about his origin story, some of his credentials, his experience in the EOD community, some of the cool missions and kind of anecdotes from his past. So that was pretty fun. This week, we'll keep it a little bit shorter, but we just want to kind of tell the story of WMDTech, where we started, where we're at, where we're going, and give you guys a little bit of, insight into our company culture and, what our vision is and why we're in doing podcasts like this and just trying to reach out and share more with you guys. So thanks for coming in again, Rob. And I don't know, I guess I just thought I'd kick it out straightforward. How did WMDTech start coming off of that podcast last week?
So let's see, back in DC, we had came across that, almost all of us at university come across the thought that, a single federal team is probably not the best answer for the country. Local and state guys were not getting the answers they needed. The first responders were not getting the answers that they needed or the information they needed to safely approach or take x-rays of some of the things we knew were out there. A lot of stuff wasn't being shared with the local and state bomb squads. And, the idea that a single federal team would be the answer for all, well, that's great. There should be that capability. However, a lot more emphasis needed to be put on the local and the state. And I know it's expensive because you're taking that little pot of money and now you're spreading it out amongst
lots of people.
So, I can appreciate the expense. And I think DOE kind of had the same idea much later on as we did, that we really needed to spread that capability out across the nation. And that's where these stabilization teams came from. You're increasing the capabilities on a much more spread, geographical area. Yeah. So that was something that really kind of kept sticking with us. We knew that, it was great. It was fun. It was a great life, but there needed to be there with the local and state folks. How are we going to do that? And so when I was still in DC, I had actually bought the domain, WMDTech.com. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until much later that we actually got to put that in place.
So you knew when you were there, I mean, I don't know if you knew you were already ETSing or whatever, but you at least had the idea in your head, like, hey, I think I'm going to go private after.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And it was kind of a very gray, idea of what we would do. How do you even begin that? How do you even start that? And so when I ended up moving out here to Idaho, another guy that was in that same unit he was born and raised in Idaho, and he actually ended up moving to Idaho. Similar situation too.
Just coincidentally.
Yeah. He grew up out here, and so he was out here with his...
So was there an inspiration, just going back just a little bit, was there, I don't know kind of what the industry layout was at that time. Was there other guys you saw getting out and going private or going contracting and stuff, and you thought, hey, I could do that?
Not
or
really.
Was it
No, I didn't really have any idea of what
idea?
was out there on the private side. I did a little bit of State Department work, and it was eye-opening. I'd been with the military long enough to see what government healthcare was like, and I was really shocked when we went to a private hospital. I remember my ex going to the private hospital because my daughter had a boil on her butt, and sent her with a sleeping bag and pillow. But she came back in, I don't know, it felt like half an hour.
Yeah.
And it was all done. I was shocked. So I thought civilian life's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
As far as some of those benefits. But what am I going to do? When I ended up coming to Idaho, I ended up linking up with Matthew Ketchum. He was out of that unit in DC, and we threw the kind of figured we'd give it a try. We started trying to market ourselves. Back then it was TRR.
So did you have product ideas, or were you guys trying to be a training
strictly
support
training?
Company?
It was strictly training, and it was kind of focused around the precision aim. Because that was
those tactics you were learning at your time in DC.
Yes, yeah. The things that we had developed, what we learned, what we created. I was doing so everything we did in DC really that we got good at was the precision aim by far. That was probably the top thing that we developed and really mastered. I had my degree in electronics. I had my background in electronics, so electronics was a natural part of that. We did alarm bypass, and so I developed some tools actually for alarm bypass, and I still have it today. It's it's similar to some of the other ones that are out there, but I don't use any batteries. There's no switches. That was kind of my claim to fame for a while. The lock picking, I was self-taught lock picking years before I even got in the military, and kind of started doing that. So there was a smattering of things that we were, we had some decent expertise in that we figured we could pass on to the.
And did that kind of start just in the Pacific Northwest out here, like some of the regional squads? And
That's I guess like most serial killers and things like that. You start with what you know in the areas and near your neighborhood. So we started marketing to some of the lower squads.
I think Utah, Idaho,
Portland, Seattle. We just kind of branched out. We marketed. I remember the first time, being out doing the cold calls. Cold calls, they kind of suck, but I'm cold calling, and I call this county in California, and I was talking to the bomb squad commander there, and I was kind of doing the pitch, and he stops me and he says, "Well, hold on a second. Who are you to offer training to us?" And I thought, was on one of the top federal teams in the nation. I mean, golly, you got some credentials there, but it really didn't dawn on me that A, nobody really knows who we are, and B, nobody really knows what we did.
Right.
And C, how do you relay that to somebody who's who's already in a fairly prestigious position in let's say the LA area?
Yeah, big California city. Yeah.
It's like, that's a good point. How do we even start to market it? So that was an interesting challenge there. One of our first customers was Utah County, and it was Skip Curtis. Harold Skip Curtis was one of our first customers.
Who's now our lead trainer.
Yes, yes. So that was interesting.
So be our customer and we'll give you a job. No, I'm just kidding.
The next one was Portland. It was Mike Unsworth was out there in Portland, and his name escapes me. He was the SABT for the Portland area, but later on he became the lead FBI SABT for the HDS course.
It's been some years. He's since gone, correct?
Yes, he's retired out. Yeah.
And then you had Brendan Phillips and Walter Wesson in the Washington area.
Right.
Yeah. So the beginning days. So we work with a lot of those guys. I mean, it definitely started as training. Did you have a demand come from customers for the creation of or distribution of products, or did you just start saying, "Hey, you know what we could use for classes?" This
actually, it wasn't my idea. It was Matt. We were out there doing a demonstration, and guys were asking us, well, where do I get this or where do I get that? And so we would literally give them. It's like, well, right now the best deal for tripods is Amazon or B&H Photo, and you get this piece over here and you get this piece over there, and this one doesn't really have a manufacturer yet, so we just go to a machine shop and we have it made. And he kind of pulled me aside, and at the time, we had few jobs. Jobs were few and far between. I mean, it would be we market, we get one.
What year is this?
This is about 2006.
Okay, so a couple years before the crash, but things are still pretty lean.
Right. Oh yeah, very lean.
So, and that's kind of one of the things I was going to say. Of course, especially in this industry, everybody on the defense industry wants to be big and prestigious and global and
right.
And in reality, that's not what this podcast is about. Is just tooting the horn. I mean, we want to tell a story and let you guys get to know us. So, I wasn't around quite in 2006, but from what I've been told, it was lean times.
Oh yeah,
I mean, and as a matter of fact, that ultimately led to the departure of Matt, right?
Right. So we would we'd work up, we'd get a job, and then it could be 6 months before we got another one, and so it was feast and lots of famine. And he had 5 kids at the time, so famine is not a great thing to have with 5 kids. So he ended up bowing out, taking a job with TSA for that steady paycheck, and he's been doing great with that.
Right.
So he's been doing that for quite a while, and I kind of kept struggling through it. And
you were working out of a garage, correct?
Yes, yes.
So classic.
Yes, and so my mom and stepdad ended up moving out to Idaho from Texas to help out. And we ended up working in their garage, and then my youngest brother came out, then my middle brother came out, and then it became, pretty much a family business. And
right.
So I had all the shares of the company. I ended up, actually it was my mom and my stepdad ended up with half, so it was 50-50. And then when I brought the brothers on, we gifted them portions of the company, so it was going to be equal across.
Right.
It didn't quite work out that way, but that was the intent, was for equal ownership around. And it sounded like a great idea at first, and it really did. It really did kick up our I guess our
capabilities.
Because
You weren't coming up with the idea, cold calling it, selling it, making it, packing it, shipping it, delivering it. I mean, now you had, access to more of a talent base to work with.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, my talent skills for marketing, not great. I do pretty good with the technology. I do pretty good with the training, but when it came time to doing the marketing or the manufacturing, I mean, I couldn't do it all. And so you do need a lot of help with that. And so Chris ended up doing the marketing side. Tim ended up doing the manufacturing side. And, my mom and Rick ended up doing more of the administrative side. And so it really kicked us up to the next level. We were able to get jobs that I would never have been able to do on my own. There's just no way. And it was kind of funny. I sometimes talk about the writings on the wall. There's certain things that happen for a reason. In the beginning, it was almost like we're being spoon-fed by karma.
Yeah.
The good karma. We would
just when you're at the absolute, we're gonna have to call this thing last dollar. And then the contract comes in.
We didn't have any money. We weren't paying ourselves, so we would scramble on the sides to figure out how to make ends meet. All the money went right back in the company, but we'd get a job, right? The job, we had just enough money to fulfill the job, and then we still didn't have enough money to get paid. But the next job would come in, and it would be slightly larger. So we'd take the profits from the first job, we roll into the second job, and we'd get another job, and it was just slightly larger. And so the profits kept rolling into these jobs. So it was years before we actually ever got to draw a paycheck. That's.
And so I think the next step, eventually, like you said, a job comes.
Right.
And, and by the way, I think this podcast could be interesting to any of you guys out there. I know there's plenty of you law enforcement, military guys might get out and you're asking, what am I going to do? You could be a young guy, just did your 4 years. You could be a older guy that's got 25 years in, but I know a lot of you guys are thinking of what's next. Of course, you could go the contractor route or, join an organization or something, but I know a lot of you want to start a business. So Rob might be
I hear it all the time,
be willing
too.
to share some insights. And we get a lot of you guys, by the way, and thank you. And feel free to continue to reach out to us with little product ideas or big product ideas or training classes and, helping out with curriculum. Feel free to always reach out to us, but you may want to go it alone too. So here potentially could be some, just Rob's story and WMDTech story, but there's something to learn in every story. So like Rob was saying, you're getting contracts, gets a little bigger. Well, now you're at a point where you can't stay in the garage anymore.
Right.
And so, again, here's a tip. You guys, and I'm pretty sure almost every major city and probably some minor ones have this, small business incubation centers. And you start working with the Chamber of Commerce and the SBA, and they place you kind of like in a rent-controlled incubation
It's
period.
basically cheap rent. That's what it comes down
and
to.
the state looks at it as, hey, if we can grow, which this company did end up growing, then obviously they're going to contribute that back, through other civil means.
And they do offer other resources too. I mean, I didn't find a whole lot of benefit in it. They'll help you. They'll hold like workshops, and they're supposed to help you come up with a business plan, or it's pretty vague, and it wasn't really specific enough for what we need. We always kept having challenges with different things, and
a big portion of that too, to be fair to those guys, I think they were a little newer here in our state, and then we're so niche. This is so niche. I mean, I could see how some of that could help with a young entrepreneur getting into a little bit more of a consumer base, but I mean, this is the 1%.
You hear the stories about the guy who invents something and becomes rich, right? That's a lot of the guys, because we do talk to a lot of folks, and a lot of folks have that dream. It's like, I got an idea for something, with the idea that they're gonna make some money off of it. In the EOD field, we're talking hundreds is our market base, hundreds of squads, right?
And that's probably been, just speaking as director of sales, that's probably one of the biggest objections. I don't really get a lot of objections. I feel like guys really like our tools. They're satisfied with their sim. If there's one thing, and honestly, probably every vendor gets this, but it's like, man, the EOD price tag, you know? And it's like something to keep in mind, is when Apple makes a computer, they know they're going to sell 1 billion of those computers.
Yes.
When we spend the same amount of time designing a robot or a precision aim system, and with much less resources, and credits and everything else that those guys are getting, And our best case scenario is to sell 300 or 400 of them.
Right.
The price tag changes a little bit. Yeah.
Yes, it does. That is the biggest hurdle to our market base.
Right. And I think the whole community, not just WMD Tech, but it's like, obviously business is going to follow the money. And so I think that says something about our company, about Rob, and not just our company, Rob, but a lot of the smaller operating guys, not even just EOD, but some of the other kind of more niche tactical and military law enforcement is if you're here, you got to actually love it. You got to want to be in this community.
Right.
Because, I mean, there's guys that have done really well and they're kind of staples in the community. But I don't know if anyone's been made a billionaire out of EOD yet.
Right. Yeah, and what we've seen on some of the our predecessors, competitors, they've always, they start out in the EOD market and then they start taking bigger contracts outside the EOD market because that's really the only way you can grow in the sizes that they have. Like TACI or AT Solutions at the time, they were the oldest, they were the biggest. They ended up growing outside of the EOD community, and I don't know if they're even doing EOD stuff anymore. They got bought out several times. Now it's last I heard was PAE,
right?
And their portion of their business that they do for EOD is probably thinner than that sheet of paper compared to their entire company
the rest
profile.
Of their budget. Yeah. And that's all that stuff's all due respect to all the other companies that we've worked. Extent we have a lot of guys here that have worked with them. So, I mean, it's hard because if there was billions in EOD, well, then you'd get $1 billion companies to come into the space.
Yes.
The downside is they push out the small guys.
Right.
The upside for you guys out there listening as techs or people in the community, probably going to see advancement in the technologies and tools way faster.
Yes.
If Apple comes in with their powerhouse, I mean, you're going to have like drone precision aim like 2 weeks. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we went into the incubation center. That's kind of where I came in. You're talking 2009, 10-ish.
Well, even staying in the EOD market, call me stubborn, call me stupid, but that's really where my passion is staying in the EOD market. And so that's kind of self-limited us to staying in that EOD market focus there. So our growth potential, is only so big in the EOD market, but that's where I want to be.
And we've started innovating stuff, and I've said it a couple times, I know, but that's why we're trying to do stuff like this podcast and the demos and the online training. And we say there is still room for innovation. There's still stuff that these guys need that we can make at a price they can actually afford.
Right.
Especially any of you guys that are not in what we would call like a group category where, big Uncle Sam's going to purchase millions of it and distribute it out. Most of you state and local guys, smaller bomb squads, Army, God bless you. I was in the Army too. I get it. Air Force gets all the good stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's usually Navy and Air Force that got the better budgets. Yeah.
So they got the big EOD budgets.
But they're also, their timelines for adopting things like that, usually local and state. When I was in the military, I thought, and you always see it on TV, military is going to be so much better equipped than local and state guys. No, not really. Not really. In the EOD community,
more guys though too.
There was
Way
more cutting edge stuff, more newer stuff in the local and state than there was in the military. The military is a years long.
Well, that, and then they decide what the SOP is, and they buy it for everyone.
Right.
It's not one unit. That Fort Myers picks this, Jacksonville.
Right.
No, it's Air Force picks this, and everyone.
Off the shelf pistol.
So you guys know all this stuff, pros and cons, but so back to the WMD Tech story. So we're at the incubator, and you kind of start growing personnel. What was it like hiring your first, employees that weren't part of the family group anymore? Now you're bringing in new people.
Right. So, the amount that you're paying somebody is always a consideration because the number one expense for businesses is the people.
Yeah, payroll.
That's payroll. That's the number one expense. And at first you kind of poo-poo it. You're like, well, I've got these jobs and I need people to fulfill it.
Yeah.
Well, it costs money to have those people to fulfill it, and then you got to have I wouldn't say quality, but certain people are good at certain jobs and certain people are not good at certain jobs. And we held on to good people because they were all good people, probably longer than we should have, who weren't good at the specific jobs that we needed. And that could vary.
So that's kind of an entrepreneur lesson you had, was just, again, it had nothing to do with maybe the individual, but the placement and the time to figure out who fits where. And then I got to imagine when you're that small, it's like you don't have really time to go through that anyways. You kind of, if you're paying 3 salaries,
Right.
they got to fill those exact roles. And,
Right.
yeah.
And with the small business, you've got, it's not one distinct, a specific role that they're doing. They're probably doing multiple things.
Right.
And so that's just kind of the nature of small business. You're wearing multiple hats.
So what kind of hours were you putting in through those mid 2010s?
Oh, there was some times where we'd be, especially getting ready for a class. I mean, we'd be working through the evening, through the night. Usually in the early days, we'd be doing most of our bills at the customer's location. So we'd show up, we'd be working through the night at the hotel room. There've been a few times where we've had people banging on the walls. It's like, I'm soldering. I'm not making a lot of noise. What the heck, Why are people banging on my wall?
Yeah, go, finish your last solder at 5 a.m. and then head to class.
Yes,
from yesterday. So, I mean, I guess, it kind of grows really throughout the 2010s. And that's kind of when I came on and we start adding more people. And,
Right.
it's every couple months. Now we need one of these. And,
Right.
hey, this guy's got too many hats. Let's split that off here
Right.
and there. I mean, what would you say? Obviously, finding people in the best role, but do you feel like the dynamics are changing with the ownership? What kind of lessons were you learning, as an individual and as a business owner? Like what was the atmosphere kind of once you've grown now, money's starting to come in.
Right.
Now you have the responsibility of handling that money and planning for,
Right.
the next order at a bigger scale.
Right.
So it's like one mistake could
the mistakes get much more costlier at that level because everything is kind of painful when you're small, but if you miss the mark by $100, okay, well that means I pull a shift at the Quickie Mart to make the $100.
Right.
You miss the mark on a multi-million-dollar order, and that can get expensive pretty quick. I mean,
that could just close the doors.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's high stakes.
Right, and that's pretty hard to make up. So that was definitely a challenge. And then the one thing that I learned, I guess, in the past years that I never really thought of, when you think that a business is getting ready to close the doors, you're thinking because they're out of work, right? They become obsolete. People don't buy from them anymore. That's actually not the number one reason why businesses close. Mm-hmm. The number one reason why businesses close is because they take on too much and they can't fulfill it. So they run out of capital, they can't fulfill the orders, and they close the doors.
Yeah. And
Grow too fast.
And there was some of that. I mean, working on a government purchase cycle. I mean, obviously last year with the Corona situation helped pretty much nobody. A few select companies out there, Netflix, everyone at home.
Right.
But everybody else kind of took a thump. But the natural life cycle of this business is, hey, everyone buys in September, October.
Right.
It's ice cold through the holidays.
Right.
Everybody's Federal Friday. You don't hear anything till February.
Again, you make a mistake, and you don't even have a lot of time to make that up. You've got one shot.
And in this business, it's skilled labor. So, I mean, you got guys that you're teaching sensitive information. You don't want to bring on guys seasonally and then let them on. Those are the type. We're trying to bring in guys and keep a good core team of people that can build those devices and training aids and all the stuff that we're doing the right way.
And there's other things that kind of popped up out of the blue that we never thought of. Liability, right? I wouldn't have thought, because certain counties said, well, you need to have a $2 million policy to be able to teach in our state. Okay, great. So I start shopping for insurance. Well, what do? Well, we do training for bomb squads. Ooh, that's not something you should say to an insurance agent.
Yeah, bomb.
Like, well, but we're not actually teaching, anything to do with explosive. We're teaching an electronics course. So, okay, so who are you teaching? And you talk to the next agent, because you have to kind of, just like when you call for tech support, you don't take the first person's answer, especially when they don't really answer your question. You hang up, you call back again, you talk to somebody else till you get the answer you want. So we're doing that with agents. And we talked to another one. It's like, okay, so who is your customer base? First responders. Nope, wrong answer. Okay, I'm going to try somebody else. So who is your customer base? We teach government, local, state, and federal government employees. Like, okay, there we go. Now we're starting to get some decent quotes. It's like, okay, so what kind of subject are you teaching? Electronics. Like ITT Tech. In a classroom, the only thing they have to worry about is burning themselves, which is actually true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we really had to
no trigger words.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it was insane. I remember the first time I tried to get a quote, and they ended up hooking me up with Lloyd's of London, and it was I can't remember. It was almost I think it was like $30,000 a year. Granted, the classes we were teaching back in the day, were we're making a couple $1,000. They wanted us to pay $30,000 for an insurance policy for a class that we're making a couple thousand. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
And again, that's where some of the big dogs they got the advantage, because they got the big rider policy or the blanket coverages So at some point there, again, the training's really starting to step it up. But you guys are kind of burning the candle at both ends. Where does the products really start coming in? I know Sandia eventually, in one way or another, kind of got that basic precision aim and started building out that capability for the federal government. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
And then they kind of circled back, knowing that was an expertise, and said, "Hey, do you want to?"
Right. Yeah, it was actually fairly early on. It was actually back in the MAT days when we started looking at doing equipment.
The precision aim, I guess, royal or licenses, I guess you'd call it.
Oh, that was before even XTK existed. Yeah. So we actually started trying to buy volume for geared heads, and because we were doing quite a bit of precision aim training before XTK ever existed. So we were actually providing the gear, the tripods, the geared heads. At the time we were using super clamps to hold the disruptors, and so we were setting people up with a precision aim capability. And then eventually Sandia got on board with theirs, and they borrowed our concept of the fiducials, and they merged that with another group's concept of the chicken wire, and came up with XTK. And I knew one of the guys that was on the part of the lead.
So really the precision aim capability existed back from your time in DC. And the XTK capability is what Sandia sort of integrated that software side of it with those existing tools.
They simplified it, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Simplified and standardized some of the tool sets. And we were the natural fit because, I mean, we knew that inside and out. We knew exactly how that worked, how all the pieces worked. And so we started teaching XTK back in the day. But we also started providing the gear, which... it's so much easier to scale up on equipment sales than it is training sales.
Yeah, because you can move more equipment, but you can only be in so many places at once, and
there's only so many experts for a particular field.
So, I think we've continued, like I said, obviously continued to grow and moved in out of that incubation center, and you go into your first building. And you're there for a couple of years, and we're working some nice contracts now, and sort of building that credibility with the community. And I got to say, I mean, we've had very little, literally almost 10 years I've been here. Very rarely do we see a return or anything like, we try to get that quality out. But then, we were getting to a point. I remember one year I was on the road like 30 out of 52 weeks. You were on the road 30 out of 50. Yeah. Yes. And so we started bringing on a little more and continuing to grow that capability, and moved into our second building, which is where we're at now.
Right.
WMDTech HQ here in Boise. And kind of coming into last year, and like I said, the experience has been interesting, but we've been navigating it and pivoting and reacting and trying to continue to offer the products and services you guys need to support you. But I guess kind of going into that, and obviously that portion of the story, the first 5 years kind of was 15 minutes of conversation, and the next 10, because it's just punching the clock every day, making calls, showing up, punching the clock every day, making calls. And that's how we've, the next 10 years is pretty straightforward. There's some really cool stories and events in there, but that's how you grow the business. So I guess kind of going into the end of it, what's your vision now? Like, what are you seeing now? Obviously, we have some really fun tools and stuff, but what's your vision for your hope for the community and your vision for the company?
So innovation tools, I mean, really, I think the technology is starting to get to the point where we can automate a lot of these responses that we have. Anytime we can keep a bomb tech from ever having to approach the device, I think obviously the safer they'll be. Will you ever get to the point where you don't need a skilled bomb tech? I don't think so. I think you'll always need that skilled, experienced bomb tech to do it, to make the decisions. That's really, I think, where we're a long way off before any kind of AI could ever make the decisions that a bomb tech would need to make. And so, they're not going to be irrelevant. Not in my lifetime. It's not going to be a
checker at the grocery store. It's all self-checkout now. Yeah.
No, you'll always need that experienced bomb tech to make the decisions. Whether you have, the cool dog running down range with lasers to disrupt packages, great, but you still need that human to make the decisions. And there's even things where you just can't do robotically. It's not even remotely possible with any of the technology we have right now. Special events, for example. We've been doing quite a bit of work with Philadelphia Bomb Squad, just because the number of special events that they have, you need a live person walking the crowds, looking at the anomalies. Right. Yes, yeah, opening the packages, X-raying the packages, deciding that I'm just going to get this out of here because it's safer to move that than it is to even comprehend trying to move hundreds of people away from it. And you get some pretty silly folks. I've heard some pretty crazy stories. They're trying to. There's a suspicious package left, and there's a monster crowd of people. Can you imagine like some of these Antifa riots? Right, you're trying to push these crowds away. First of all, you're a law enforcement person in these crowds. There's something there that's serious, that's concerning. You want to get it away from these crowds. Regardless of anybody's beliefs or anything, you're still out there to save lives. So you're trying to get this thing away from the people, or the people away from the thing, and it's just not practical. It's not practical at all. So we started actually dealing with or coming up with courses for how to deal with that. How do you deal with it? My days, it was, we'll be available. We're going to bring on some extra guys. We'll even bring in some extra equipment from the neighboring city, neighboring state, and we'll be available if you need us. Well, that model doesn't work when you've got bad guys who are setting things down that are timed.
Yeah.
Which is how they typically do it. So.
And also, you need the human.
You definitely need the human
of that. Yeah. To make that decision, and yeah.
Yeah.
So
as cool as technology is, and as cool as these advancements are happening, and they seem to be happening at a much faster pace, you're always going to need that person. You're always going to need that experience, that training, that individual training.
So I mean, I guess touching on that, the Antifa, and I don't know, not even the Antifa, just the kind of the turmoil that's been going on lately. Like I said, the goal of this podcast was to have some transparency. So I want to get too political with it out there, and we want to obviously have respect for everybody. But speaking for the company, I know that a lot of us like to support other companies that have just common value systems. We don't have to agree on everything. We're not going to get into the weeds of the arguments and stuff. But obviously, 99.9% of our transactions are with the government. Almost all of us in this building were prior service military or law enforcement. Would you say that we have an ongoing commitment to support our law enforcement officers and in the turmoil that's going on, our military, when they're not sure where they're shipping next? Are they coming home? Are they going? Whatever. I mean, is that a core foundation of WMDTech? Is the support for those communities?
Oh, absolutely. It's almost cheating, that answer, because of the EOD community, the nature of the EOD response. It's not an assault force. It's a defense force. It's trying to protect folks from bad people who are actively setting out devices to try to kill people. We're 100% a defense type capability, and so that's easy. Yeah. Who's not going to support that, right? Well, you'd be surprised.
Not everyone. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's
too easy.
That could seem rhetorical, but there's a lot of people that can make an argument that these guys need to lose their funding. And obviously, selfishly, that's going to impact companies like ours if they were defunded because they're not buying anything anymore. But I think, part of our ethos is to continue to support those guys throughout. Do officers make mistakes? Military guys do I every day? Yeah, all of us do.
Right.
Not disputing that whatsoever. But as a core
group,
as a company, we definitely want to represent you guys. We want to support you whenever we can. And I think you agree with that, Rob.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And now I'm a has-been. I'm not out there risking my life anymore. I'm not on the job anymore. My wife gets pretty upset when I say it. I'm a has-been. I'm just a teacher.
Yeah.
She's got her PhD and she's a potato doctor, and she takes offense to that because she was a professor for quite a while. And it's like, well, you're diminishing my job. It's like, I had a much more,
unique, we'll call
unique
it that,
job before. And so, no, I think what I do is important, but I'm not out there risking my life. It's the guys that we're working with, the guys we're providing gear for.
The community we're supporting,
And they're doing it for a very, very noble cause. It's not, it's not quite like, Hollywood presents it, where they're all fame and glory and everybody, puts them on a pedestal. I know that's not the case.
And I've seen it. I got to say, I've seen it so many times. And I know some of the stuff we're talking about and that I've said, it could maybe come off as, I don't want to say disingenuous, but kind of generic. Like every company's, we support the guys, or what. I mean, I'll say for you, Rob,
and in the EOD market
for a reason,
yes,
for sure,
yes.
And man, we have honestly, just truly honestly, I can't think of how many times there was a mistake or anything else. And of course, you learn things over time too, and you gotta try and structure your business so that people don't take advantage of you. But how many times there was a mistake that maybe necessarily wasn't on our end, and we ate it. We ate how many thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars,
right?
Just to keep these guys happy and support them. You know,
yes.
And so when I say that stuff, guys, I don't want to sound cheesy. I mean it 100%. When we're saying support the guys in the community, and you're like, oh God, no, really, like that's why we're out here. That's what we're trying to do,
right?
And that's a core. Again, that's the ethos here. So kind of moving out of that. In your opinion, what is the community missing right now? Just the whole EOD community, and that includes the vendors, the Fed, federal side, local, state, international. Just as a community, what do you feel like we could be missing right now?
So, it's fairly deep. There's a couple different levels, I guess. Looking at it, you always want the newest, coolest gear, right? That's just kind of natural, and there are tools that make the job easier, better, safer, more effective, and things like that. But I think one of the biggest things that's missing, and I see it on a small scale, sometimes large scale, but not enough of it, is the cooperation between the different disciplines. So if a major event, let's say in a major event, magically the hazmat team, the medical teams, the fire teams, the bomb squads,
SWAT,
the law enforcement, the SWAT will all magically come together and work together in perfect harmony.
Yeah, just like state troopers and city cops do. Yeah.
Now, we did see some major events. You did see 9/11. You did see the Oklahoma bombing, and there was a lot of, just out of pure compassion, desire to do the right thing to help others. I think as humans, we're naturally drawn to helping others out. We're not bad. I think the majority of the humankind are good. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a functioning society. Period. But we don't do enough of these joint exercises. We found out pretty quickly, Hurricane Katrina, comms don't work. Well, I was assuming that hazmat would be setting up here. Well, hazmat wouldn't assume to set up there because you've never trained that way. So I think large scale exercises where you start involving more of these different disciplines is important. We started kind of kicking that around when we did our Operation Red Rocks when we could. Let's invite the hazmat.
We'll be back to doing that.
Right.
And just sorry to interrupt, but I kind of want to tangent with that because that is kind of part of our story too, was coming up and trying to be somebody that said, be a company that said, hey, we want to put on an event 100% free, get people in the community together, get them start talking. And it was amazing because we literally had, I won't say specific names just for their own privacy, but we had teams from Europe out there. Mm-hmm. We had guys from the smallest bomb squads and the smallest towns that you could think of. We had federal, ATF. We had all kinds of different guys. And I really want to say too, I think that's one benefit certainly I've had, but definitely you and Skip and you guys that are on the training cadre. We get to see the teams from, and not just like at a conference once a year or something. We get to go to their shop. We see who has what gear. We get, you know. And so I don't think a lot of guys, of course, they're going to maybe do co-training at their neighboring regional EOD squads and stuff. But man, it's amazing how different some of the, and all things equal as far as budgets and some of these bigger cities, they run it completely different. And so, I guess integrative forces, you see that a little bit with military and law enforcement side. So there's a little bit of what you're talking about. That's a course we taught, was integrated assault. What happens when you got to mix two different types? Who's responsible for what? How do you understand that?
And that was even before the FBI had standardized the TBT course. So
yeah, so I think just again, food for thought, guys. We see all those different squads and how they operate, and there's really never any right or wrong answer or
Right,
standard
correct.
operating procedure. It's
You
just
come up with the best response
Yeah.
you can for the situation you have at hand.
and
It's
it's
problem
just
solving.
interesting to see. And it's funny because I don't know if you'll agree with me here, but some of the smallest squads that I've been to are like, they're the most resourceful.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
they almost have as much gear. Now, half of it's homemade, 3D printed. We teach that class too, and everything else. But they got their capabilities. The chicken
Right.
wire, like you said,
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah,
hey, I
yep.
made my own grid
Yep,
aim. You
yep.
know, and you're like, cool, man. That's right on.
Right.
So-
No, I do. We are a business, and I learned fairly early on that we do have to make a profit. Otherwise, we can't do any of the work that we're doing.
Right.
So yes, we do have to make a profit. We are a business. We're a for-profit business. We're trying to come up with that balance. The amount of profit versus the amount of good that we can do, and we donate a lot. It's
Yeah, the EOD memorial runs and foundations, and we've
But even
auctions.
just
and
not even a specific events. It's just when a customer says, "Hey, I've got a piece of broken gear. I know what it takes to get that gear. Send it in. We'll take care of it." Well, it's
Right.
been 5 years. I got a gear head in my office there where, somebody had a broken gear head. It happens.
No, we understand that nothing sucks more than your new toy breaking and then
Right.
going up. It's yours now. That's a full replacement. But I mean, last I checked, which was 45 minutes ago, hour ago when I walked in, I didn't see any Lamborghinis in the parking lot or
No Lamborghinis.
couple Ford Tauruses
Right.
and a
I don't
scooter.
even want a Lamborghini. That's not what I want. I just want to have. I want to have a good life. I want to have, satisfaction of being able to do something for the community, for the world. And do I want to live comfortably? Yes, I would. I would love to live comfortably. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's kind of nice to have that little bit of hunger. Not a whole lot, but
Yeah, not
not a whole lot.
not
but
ravenously hungry.
definitely,
Just, thinking about eating.
Definitely not rich here, that's for sure. I remember doing some classes, and my screensaver would change, back in the early days, and or my background, and people would ask me, "Is that your house?" And it was this picture of this Japanese thing sitting on this mountainside. I was like, "Yeah, that's actually my backyard." Just kind of joking around, and the scene would change, and
That's awesome. Well, I guess I got kind of one last question for you here, and we'll wrap it up. But I mean, what's next for WMD Tech?
So we've had a whole lot of lessons that we've learned. Personnel wise, we might like somebody, but they might not be the best one for the job. And I tell you, it kind of hurts to have to decide to let somebody go that you like.
Yeah.
I really like them. They're really passionate about the job. They like the job, but golly, it's they're not the best at the job.
Right.
So kind of making those decisions has been a painful necessity. We've had to do it. This whole reaction to the COVID, basically shutting everything down and hiding from a flu, it's been very painful for us. The government's taken a very extended vacation.
Hiatus.
Yes, and it hurts. We've seen so many businesses closing around us, and we've taken a pretty good walloping off from that. So that's been a lesson that we've learned. If we don't have enough margins or profit or retained earnings, then we don't have enough, basically a big enough savings account.
Right.
We're not going to make it. So, some of the core business things, unfortunately, it's almost counter to what I'd really want to do, which is, try to offer everything at the best price possible to the bomb squads, make it as easy for them to get as possible. Unfortunately, we can't do that if we don't exist. So,
And I mean, I think we've definitely stayed price competitive despite all that.
Right.
When I say competitive, I know for a fact.
I don't
there's-
have the Ferraris. I don't take the big paychecks. It's
It's cost of goods, man.
yeah.
But so I mean, those are somewhat kind of the struggles. But what moving through that and taking all that growth and the opportunities, sometimes when you're going through growth, it's not the way you want it.
Right.
We've
We've taken jobs because they pay, right? So we take a job, let's say fulfilling equipment orders. It's kind of outside of our scope. Okay, it's for bomb squads, but it's a little bit outside of our scope. But we take it because it does bring revenues in, which helps us fulfill that primary mission of taking care of the bomb squads. So,
Right.
I do see that as part of our future. We're probably out of necessity going to need to do that, but it's not.
reach out a little.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have stuff like RPA, online
Right.
training,
Right.
new products, and I think quickly going back to what we were talking about earlier with all those training classes and soldering in the hotel and stuff. I think one thing we've learned how to do really well, especially when dollars count, man, is optimization.
Yes.
So I remember, some of those early, I went out to a precision aim class with you in Rochester, and I don't know, it's probably like circa 2012 or 13 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 4 pallets of devices
Right.
inside of that.
Right.
And, over time, we didn't need that many. We left
Right.
a whole pallet.
It sounded good in the beginning. It was like, yeah, we're just going to shoot, 100 devices in this through this precision aim course, and realizing that actually it would be nice to be able to see, is the round hitting what we're aiming at first?
Right.
That doesn't require
Can we get the
device.
technique and the fundamentals
Yes.
down, and
Yes.
then we can shoot some
Right.
things.
Right. Yes. Yes.
But I mean, depending on the squad and where you're at, that's one of the big challenges that we see on the road is if you've got a 9 tech team and 3 of them are brand new, just back from HDS. One of them hasn't even gone yet, and then 5 of them are senior guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we go out, we're doing a 3, 4, 5 day training class. Where do you spend 75% of the time? On the new guys.
Right. Right. Kind of catching them up. And you're always going to have some of that catch up.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the beauties of that online training is
Right.
all your
Exactly.
prerequisites you can knock out at your own pace.
Everybody can enter that, say,
Right.
hey, we got a class in 5 months, guys. We all need to go through these requisites
Right.
before they get
Right.
here, because now we're not shadow boxing for 3 days, just
Right.
trying to get it right. We should be kind of polished up when they get here, and
Right.
we can jump into advanced stuff, simultaneous disrupts, circuit speed, stuff like that,
Right.
instead of shadow boxing.
Right.
And we're happy to provide any of that any way we can. But I just think, I know we're kind of sitting here and talking about how it's kind of impacted our business a little bit, but I know you guys' budgets are being impacted on your side too.
Right.
So the vendors are looking for contract opportunities and ways to support, and you guys are looking for grants and opportunities to get things.
Right.
And so every dollar counts, I guess, is my point. And when you can get into a program like that for a fraction of the price of what a 4-day class is going to cost you, and have multiple modules that everyone can take all year, it's never going to replace in-person training.
Right. No.
But
I
it
don't.
could certainly be a very strong supplement.
We've actually seen, since we started doing the online training, I've actually seen an increase in
Right.
requests for in-person training, which makes perfect sense.
Yep.
You do the prerequisites. You can only do so much virtual, so much online, and then you need somebody to come and answer questions.
or stuff that guys thought that previously weren't into. Oh, we don't want 3D. That's your 3D printing. That's
Right.
bullshit. Whatever else. And then they kind of pop around the module. And actually, it's pretty cool.
It does come in handy. Yes.
Do you guys sell those printers? Well, yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of really cool stuff to look forward to, guys. And like I said, this first couple episodes here, just wanted to get in with Rob and give you a better idea about who we are. It's kind of weird because, like I said earlier, I like to do business with businesses that are our core values align.
Right.
I like their people. I kind of like their story. I know what they're about, where they're going, where they've been. If you can kind of find out some of that stuff, it just creates a good alliance, a good partnership. And so that's why we wanted to jump in and share something. Really, I don't think anyone else is doing something like this in our space right now. So going forward on the podcast, we may tell some other fun stories, and we're going to get some more people. And I think Caleb's going to come on the podcast. We'll talk a little bit more about that online stuff. Might do a quick one, like a 25, 30-minute podcast in a couple weeks for you guys. And for those of you guys that watch the video version, we'll probably put some layovers on there. So if you're watching the video, we kind of be able to see what we're talking about. And we're happy to do Zoom demos on that stuff with you guys too. Just reach out.
Well, that's something else too. It's not. It doesn't always have to be us. We'll have some podcasts or some little segments there where it'll be things that are just interesting to us.
Right.
I'm kind of a fanatic when it comes to guns and ammunition.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I do nerd out quite a bit on some of the ammo and technologies. But if somebody else has something that they're just passionate about,
send us a message, man.
Yeah.
And I just want to be clear. I get it. There's gonna be some of you guys that are interested in kind of hearing this story and kind of our little story, but there gonna be some of you guys that are like, not for me. Hey,
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah.
We totally get it. We definitely want to have some real fun. We want to provide some value some value in some of our other podcasts. We may have some that are educational based. We may have some that are interviews with other guys in the industry and some of their experience. We're talking to some different guys in and outside of the community that might want to come in and tell just their combat experience stories, and then just fun ones. Let's talk about, let's blur the lines a little bit and talk about what's going on in the community or the government, or, as it's applicable to all of us, and get takes and hear stuff from every side. So we're even looking at the potential, once we can grow this and build our audience, of having some call-ins and stuff like that. So definitely share this. If you get the opportunity, send it around the office, give it a view, a like, subscribe to it, all that good stuff, because we want to grow this out and see if it's something you guys are interested in. We're going to stick to this no matter what for at least 6 months, just to, give it time to be nurtured and grow. But that'll give us a chance in 6 months to say, hey, people are interested in this, or they want to hear more of this, or they want to hear more of that. So definitely send us a line and let us know what you think. And that's going to help us, do what you want us to do.
Right. Yep.
So cool. Rob, you got anything else?
No, I think that's, I know it's kind of a strange story, and I do like to tell stories. So that's kind of one of my things. There's always a story behind everything.
Right.
And so we definitely haven't covered all of the stories behind everything.
Oh yeah. There's some juicy ones in there. This was the professional version. We're going to do a B-side later. We'll tell the funny stories from around the office and some of the, again, the educational, the entrepreneurial stuff too.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. With even just something as boring as accounting, right? I shouldn't say boring, but accounting is not my thing.
No, it's boring to me.
Talking to the banker, the banker sees the numbers, but he really wasn't getting it. So I called him up and told him a story. It's like, so here's the story behind why these numbers look the way they do, and he says, oh, well, that makes a whole lot more sense. It took a little bit of time, but
yeah, it's boots on the ground versus at the HQ or whatever. So.
Right. And I know everything that that you guys are out there doing. There's always a reason for it and a story behind it. It's not so cut and dry as the media or the news would like to try to paint it.
No, not at all, man. And again, so that's where that support side comes in. And let's all support each other and just keep doing what we got to do. Keep our heads low, have some fun, stay safe. And we're going to check in with you guys. Episode 3 with Caleb Curtis and beyond. So awesome. Again, stay safe. Have a good day, guys.